Well, hello there, my lovelies on Instagram. It is so good to see you. Oh my gosh, I'm Donna Hoffman. It's good to be with you here on Instagram. Hello there to you, my gorgeous design peeps on Facebook. I'm Donna. They call me the interior design advocate, and they've also been called one of the leading coaches in interior design in the US. It's an honor and it's great to be here with you. I'm Donna Hoffman. The reason they call me the interior design advocate is because I advocate on behalf of you in design, no matter where you are in your journey. If you're a design lover working on your own home, I have amazing support for you. If you are a designer or want to become a professional designer and launch your own business, we have amazing support for you. When I'm not teaching and coaching about design within my industry or to design lovers across the country, I run a luxury interior design company based in the Philadelphia region of the United States. I am honored and blessed with an amazing team, and we have garnered some incredible design awards by doing our right work, the work that we love doing. And we do everything from decorative design to construction to renovation, all of it. And because I'm in the trenches every day working in this industry, it's very easy for me to bring you the most current look at what's going on, what to be aware of, what's coming, what's leaving, what to be careful of. And every Tuesday at 4 p.m., I like to stop what I'm doing here at our design studio. We make sure we don't have any client meetings scheduled that would conflict with this time. This is my time with you, my time with you. And I love to come out here and talk to you about something that I'm getting questions about, that people have concerns about. And I've gotten more and more questions from both the design community professionals as well as design lovers who think they might want to hire a designer about what it is to be a good client. What does a good client look like? What does a bad client look like? Well, last week we talked about the 3 best types of interior design clients. And this week we're going to talk about the 3 worst kinds of interior design clients. You might think, well, gee, Don, just reverse what you said last week. Not so fast there, my beauty. A little bit of that might be true, but we're going to take a deeper dive into some areas that might surprise you. Everything I say is based upon empirical data, field data, personal experience, masterminding with designers across the country. It's all said respectfully, but this is a gloves off time for you and me. When I talk to you about design in your home or design trends, I tell you what I know and I tell you what I think you need to know. Even if I think it's something you may not love hearing in the moment, I love you enough that I want you to have the truth, okay? So everything I'm about to say is respectfully stated, but it is so. All right, so let me just say too, since we're doing all of these disclaimers, that when you find the right designer, when the right client finds you as a designer, you have this amazing collaborative journey together to give a client something that they absolutely love, that they couldn't have created on their own. And it's magic. It is just magic. The tears of joy that I have seen on projects, clients who are just beyond thrilled, walking around, on delivery day saying, oh my gosh, I can't believe I get to live here. Done. This is even better than I thought it was going to be as we were selecting it. That's the magic. That's what I want for you in your design projects, with your designer, with your clients. That is the goal. That's what I want for you. But what about that outlier client that sneaks in to the mix? The nightmare client, the client who is not the client that is part of that fantastic experience. What does that client look like? So whether you want to become a design client or whether you're a designer, here are the kind of clients that are always labeled bad clients. So the first one is the micromanager. Micromanager clients are clients who believe that they have systems and processes, which they don't, that are better than their designer. If you really believe that you have systems and processes that are better than your designer, you hired the wrong designer, or you don't even know what you don't know. But the problem with micromanaging clients is that you start to denigrate and downgrade the quality of what your design team can put out for you, and you waste time and money. For example, sweetheart client who I think is an absolute doll, love her personally. I left a meeting with her. And I went to call my designer, who had also been in the meeting with me. At the time, she was my junior designer, my associate designer. And when I said, hey, it was Katie. I said, Katie, I want to talk to you about the meeting we just had with Melissa. I'll call her Melissa. It's not her name. And she said, oh, I can't talk right now. I'm on the other line with Melissa. I said, okay. So I hung up. I was in the car calling her, hands-free, so it was safe. I finally got a hold of Katie. I said, well, you were on the phone with Melissa. I said, I wanted to update you on a couple of things from that meeting that I needed you to follow up on, and I'm heading to another meeting. She said, well, Melissa wanted to update me on things that I should follow up on based upon our meeting. I said, well, what did Melissa tell you? She told me. So of the list of 8 important things that I needed my designer to move forward on based upon the meeting I just had with Melissa, the 3 things that Melissa took 20 minutes to talk over with Katie had nothing to do with really what the follow-up needed to be. Melissa didn't get it right, which is fine, but Melissa wasted 20 minutes of Katie's time. And guess what? That's a billable charge. You want to talk to a designer and waste their time? That's billable time. So not only did Melissa waste 20 minutes of time for Katie, but then I had to spend time talking about what had been discussed with Melissa and why it wasn't correct as follow-up. So even more time was wasted, as opposed to I hire the right designer. I let them do their job and let them steer the project. So micromanagers, as design clients, can start to add time to things, and time is billable. Next, I have a client, or had a client, I won't tell you if it's a current client or a past client, but fantastic person. Again, being a terrible client doesn't mean you're not a fantastic person. It just means you're a lousy client. This individual believed that they should dictate to the design team, both builder and design team, where everything should go in terms of creative development, how to develop the creative, what the creative should look like. They micromanage the creative development process so much that everyone on the design team just started to shrink in terms of what they were doing. Design build, the builders, the builder, the millwork group, the design team, and our team, everybody just started to shrink because we were no longer doing our job, designing what we believed would be beautiful to present to this client for his or her approval. Instead, we were playing Marco Polo design, trying to figure out what this client was trying to micromanage us into creating for them. And the quality of the work just started to go down. And they did it more to the builder than they did to our team. And I saw fantastic talent at this builder group just starting to shut down and say, well, I'm not going to suggest that because this individual really is telling us, showing us so many pictures that this is all they want to consider. They don't even know that what they're showing us is kind of dated or counterintuitive or doesn't really work with their architecture. So if you are a client that believes that you are hiring the best design team, the best builder group, the best millwork group that you can find, and you are hiring them because you value what they're going to bring to the project and you want to hear what they're going to bring to the project, and you have every right as a client to say, I don't agree with that, or geez, that doesn't work for me, or hey, I like that, I hadn't thought of that, but I'm not comfortable with this one piece of it. That's different. That's collaboration. That's wonderful. It's even wonderful if you say, you know what, I like what you said, but it doesn't work for me. I don't want to live in that. That's okay. I teach a process called the design fingerprint process, which is amazing. So I've never had a client say, no, that doesn't work. That's not who I am. I know how to read a client. And that if that's something as a designer you need to learn, you should check out one of my online courses. We could talk about that later. But anyway, micromanaging clients believe that they have processes, creative processes, or project management processes that they really don't have. And when they try to inflict that on a talented and experienced team, you start to shut down that team's output and shrink it down, shrink it down, shrink it down. It's the client who says, yeah, bring it. What have you got to show me? I've shown you who I am in design. I've shown you what I like in design. Now, based upon that and our budget and our timeline, what do you think? Bring me your best. That is the client that gets the very best results. Always, always, always. So micromanager clients, top lousy trait. Don't want that as a designer. When you're vetting a client because they're vetting you, you want to look out for that micromanager client. The next client trait that makes a client a not best client, a worse client, is the fact that they are budget hunters versus value expectors. They're budget hunters instead of value expectors. What do I mean by that? Everybody wants excellent value. I don't care if you're buying a yacht, a mansion, or a t-shirt. Everybody wants great value. They want to feel that the value that they are receiving for the dollars spent, that they're getting a good return on that, right? That there's good value to what they're spending. I'm getting hearts on that. The budget hunter, on the other hand, is looking for the lowest cost widget at all costs, at all times. Do not hire a designer if you're the budget hunter. Here's why. I had a client once who we knew their total budget and it worked perfectly for what we needed to do for them. But there was a chair in the living room that they felt was $400 above what they preferred to spend on a chair, even though in the total mix of their full spend, everything still came out on budget. But that $400 overage to them, it wasn't over budget, but it was more than they wanted to spend on a chair. They said, we'd like you to reselect a chair for us. We want to see other options, lower cost options. So now they're sending a designer who, at the time, my rate was $190 an hour. They're sending me back into design, which is fine, it's their prerogative, but it was my time to source it, travel to showrooms because I'd already looked through our own libraries. I needed to get to some other showrooms to find them alternatives. There was the time it took for us to then meet with the client and present it, or to do it via a Zoom, doesn't matter, it's still time. So this client, and then our team had to go into the pricing and so forth on it. There was more effort by the team on in the back of house. The client ended up using close to 3 hours of design time to save $400 on a chair. You do the math. If your design time is roughly $190 an hour and you're going to spend 3 hours between meetings and travel and sourcing and pricing, it doesn't, the numbers don't work, right? So a budget hunter versus a value expector is not an ideal client, and you need to know that about yourself as a client. As long as you can bring onto your team a design team that you trust as a client, who will take your budget and say, yes, we're going to work within this budget. This is realistic to do your dining room and kitchen or whatever your project scope is, or your whole home or your renovation. And then you let that design team guide you line item by line item through that budget. You have to allow for some items to come in slightly above, maybe where you thought they were, some below, but it all works out in the wash. So you are totally on budget for your whole project. That is for the value expector, somebody who wants good value. They want their budget treated respectfully. They know they don't want to land over budget, but they realize that within the total project spend, there's some elasticity. Some items might price out higher than you expected, some lower, and it's how it all comes out in the wash. Does that make sense to you? Give me some hearts or a thumbs up if that makes sense to you. I'm not saying you should be flagrant with dollars as a designer or as a client that you should expect people would be, okay? So item number one that makes somebody a non-ideal client or the bad client is the micromanager. Number two is the budget hunter versus the value expector. Number three, and I say this with total love because I love my DIYers. DIYers do not make good clients. I love DIYers. I love to teach DIY design lovers to work on your own home, but DIY design lovers and designers do not make good marriages unless an actual clergyman is involved and it's an actual marriage. Why? Why don't DIYers make good design clients? Because the way a DIY design lover thinks and the way a professional designer thinks are night and day different. The way resources are used, the way time is used, the way process is used. And I'm going to give you an example. I had a woman call me several years ago, and I made sure she wouldn't hire me. I knew what to do to make sure she wouldn't hire me because I knew I didn't want her to hire me. She began to tell me that she knew more than all of the designers that she had worked with, and she must have worked with at least 4 or 5 designers, and I am so tired of working with designers where I know more than the designers do, and that's why I love to work with you, Donna, because I hear wonderful things about you. And I'm listening to this lady thinking, this lady's a nut. I don't want to work with her, and she has overestimated her design skill. If you think that you know more than the 4 or 5 designers that you've worked with, I'm going to say the problem's not them. The problem's probably you. You probably shouldn't be a design client. Being a design client means, this is scary, but it means giving over a little bit of creative control during the development stage. not the decision stage. Final decision is yours as a client, but you need to let your designer develop a design for you. So if you think that you know more than your designer because you have watched HGTV, taken a course, I don't know, spent time on Instagram, I'm going to tell you that you're going to drive a design team crazy. They're not going to like working with you, and you're probably not an ideal design client. You probably shouldn't be a design client, or don't hire a full service design team. Hire a design consultant, somebody who you can kind of team up with, who's going to want to design with you as a full-fledged design partner. Now, does that mean your design clients aren't to be treated with utmost respect? Not at all. Design clients are to be adored, respected, taken care of, wrapped in the embrace of your protection as a designer. Yes, all of that. But this responsibility of developing the design rests with the designer. And so as a client, you need to let go a little bit. And sometimes DIY design lovers don't quite know how to let go a little bit. Maybe that gets into a little bit of the micromanagement as well. So, like I said, when you find the right designer and the right client finds you as a designer, it's magic time. It's go time. And I want to encourage you as a designer, if you're a professional designer, be careful in who you sign. I don't care if you think you need to fill your pipeline. Don't do it. If you find any of the red flags that we've talked about in this short session. And if you're thinking of becoming a design client, ask yourself if you think you fall into any of these problem areas, and if so, maybe you don't want to be a design client. Maybe you want to just go to a furniture store, have some free design service from a furniture salesperson, and move through things that way. That makes sense? Alrighty, so if you have a question about working with a designer or working with a client, I'm happy to take those questions while I'm here live. While you're putting in your questions, I want to let you know what we're talking about next week. Next week, we're talking about design trends. Design trends for 21 and 22. So definitely good for all of you to tune in next week, 4 p.m. Eastern. So that's going to be a goodie. All right, let me see who's here, what's happening, what kind of questions we have. Sandra's here from Boston. Hello to Sandra. I'm getting hello from Yolanda. Hello from Florida. Diane's down in Florida. Susan O'Leary's here in Bucks County. Woohoo! Yay! Oh, Susan's with Superior Interiors of Bucks County. Susan, so nice to have you here. Yay. Sean is here from North Carolina. Sandra Jackson's giving me 2 thumbs up. Okay, I'm getting thumbs up and so forth. Okay, so Julia Ann Smith is saying it's important to set expectations about looking at the whole picture being within budget. That's correct. And therefore, Susan, I have to tell you, when clients call us, prospective clients call us, from the very first phone call as we're talking about, their wants, their needs, their wishes, and all that about their project and timelines and so forth, we ask budget questions right away. And if you were brought up as a good girl, as I know you were probably taught you don't talk about money, right? It's not polite. Don't ask people, what do you earn? And you really don't ask people, what do you earn? But if you're a designer, you do ask people, what's your budget? Because you want to make sure that you can deliver for your client. You want to make sure you can over-deliver for your client. So you can't sign a project if you know that the budget isn't commensurate with the size of the project. And we talked about that last week. In fact, if you missed last week's session, which was the 3 best types of interior design clients, you want to find us on YouTube, kaboom, you can watch any portion of today's little fun trot through this topic. But you can also see what we talked about last time, so I would recommend that. Okay, so I am getting hello from Martine, who's down in Arizona. She's back. She's happy to be back here. Okay, hello from Canada, from Lori Bells in Ontario. Okay, Sandra Frederick Falk is saying, Donna, what questions do you ask a designer before you hire them? Oh, this is such a good question. All right, Sandra. Okay, here are some questions to ask. First, tell me about your process. How does it work? From the moment I sign with you, tell me, what are the steps? What should I expect? What do you do? And how do you do it? Find out about the process first. Tell me, what is your approach with managing budget and resources? Listen for that answer. This is the budget that I have set aside for this project based upon the fact that we've just talked so far. I know you haven't looked at it yet. You haven't seen my blueprints, or you haven't seen my home or my living room or whatever the project scope is. Based upon our discussion so far, do you feel that this budget that I have is in order, is commensurate with what I want to create here? Here's a favorite question. Nobody ever asks me. Tell me about the worst thing that ever happened to you on a design project, and what did you do to correct it? That's such a good question. Things go wrong. You know, design, building, renovation, it's a human sport. A lot of hands touching things. Things can go off the rails. What's important though is what did you do to correct it? And hopefully a lot of stuff is never going off the rails. But I like to ask that question even of a subcontractor because it tells you a lot about somebody's character. So I think those are really good questions to ask. Sandra, let me know if you need a follow up, if there's something further that you're particularly working on in your project, and I can tell you about some things to find out about, to ask about as well. So brown.girl.farmhouse on Instagram is saying, someone follows me on Instagram. They love my home. They want to hire me to decorate her home. I have no idea what to charge. Any suggestions? Brown.girl.farmhouse. Okay. I don't know what your training and background is. If you are a design lover and you're just going to go out and design people's homes, I would be very careful of that. I think you have to be real careful because there are liabilities involved. You need contracts, and there's just a lot to know before you start taking people's money to design for them. Like I said, the liabilities are great. Your responsibilities as a designer are massive. And designers do get sued. So you got to be careful. So I'm not going to tell you what I think you should charge. I'll tell you what the national average is. The national average for designers is $150 an hour. There are women charging as little as $85 an hour. From my observation, those people really can't get their design practice off the ground. There are people charging upwards of $350 an hour. You know, it depends on what city you're in, city versus suburb. Like I said, throw out that super low ball number, throw out that super high ball number. The national average has been sticking around that 150, 160 range for a while. So if that helps you, brown.girl.farmhouse, to pick your number within that, you go for it. But I really caution you about just jumping in and designing for people without having some strong process and skill behind you, because that's what you lean into, the not just instinct. Alrighty. That said, are there Mozarts out there? Yes. Remember you sat through maybe your kid's piano recital and they were plunking away on Furlies or whatever they, played, and everybody sounded alike. And then there was one kid who sounded like they could give a concert. That was the Mozart of the class. So you might be the Mozart out there, but I'm going to say that for 99.9% of the population, you really should have some process behind you before you start going out and taking people's moolah. But that's just me. Alrighty. And I say that to you with a hug and a kiss and love as well. Joe is looking forward to design trends. That's good. Eric is saying, with clients, do you have them fill out a preliminary info before you meet with them? Yes, Erica, I do. I believe that clients don't fully know how to talk about themselves in design. There are things that I know to look for as a designer, which is something I teach in this design fingerprint process that I teach. But anyway, so I like to know what clients can tell me about themselves. I want to know, obviously, name, rank, and serial number. I like to know children. How many children are there children in the house? What are their ages? Are there pets in the house? I like, because that'll affect what kind of fabrics you're putting into the residence, right? I want to know if there are any health issues I need to know about. Is there somebody with a disability in the family? I need to design, ramps or be careful of footing. Do I need to be mindful of a behavioral issue? Are there allergies? Is there asthma? Is there some illness in the family I need to know about? So any health issues that we should be aware of. Any allergies that we should be aware of. I get that. I ask people, obviously, tell me your favorite colors, colors you love, colors you dislike, patterns you love, patterns you dislike. Ask them their timeline. What is your timeline? I ask them how decisive they are. There are a lot of really good questions to ask clients so that you know who this person is before you walk in to serve them in that first meeting. For me, a first meeting is a design session. It's not just an interview. So I like to know as much about this person or this couple heading in as I possibly can. Who's on the design team? Sometimes people say it's just me, or my spouse doesn't want to be involved, and other times it's both of us, or it's me and my mom, right? So you need to know who you're designing for. Alrighty. So those are off the top of my head a couple of questions. There are more, but that should get you started. And if you have a follow-up, Erica, let me know. Okay. Rena.ballet is saying, if I know what look I want and I have an eye for design, is it still worth hiring a designer? No. Listen, who hires designers? People who hire designers are the following. The people who want to hire designers are people who recognize in themselves that they don't have the skill set, the resources, meaning they've got the money, but they don't know where to go for what, right? They want access to design trade resources and a lot of customization. So they recognize they don't have the skill set, they don't have the resources, the connections, they don't have the vision that a designer would bring. They want something that they couldn't design on their own. They want something that is of a certain caliber that they know they couldn't create on their own. And they're also busy and they don't want to do the legwork. So if that's not you, if you like the way you design, or if you've taken one of my classes and you say, hey, Donna's taught me to do what I need to do in my home, this is what I need to do, I'm good, then you're good. You don't need to hire a designer. The people who are hiring designers in the country, worldwide, these are people who have discretionary income, who want somebody to do it for them. These are the people who they want to hire the specialist to get a certain end result. One of the homes I'm designing is a 20,000 square foot residence. That would be a very big undertaking for a non-designer to do on their own. They want it completely beautifully finished, soup to nuts. They also don't live in the US full time, so they don't have feet on the ground here. They need a professional design team. Another client is hiring us to do a full home that's about half the size of that residence. That would still be a very big undertaking for a non-designer to do on their own. So it depends upon the scope of the job that you're talking about. So Rena.ballet, I hope I helped you there. If you like what you do on your own, do it yourself. Please do it, love it, and go for it. That's what I would say. And if you, as you just said, I know what I like and I have an eye, you might drive a designer absolutely bonkers. So you may not be an ideal design client. So go for it on your own. Rena.ballet, and I bless it and wish you luck. And I'm excited to see pictures when it's all done. Also on Instagram, one Virgo 34 is saying, I'm starting off in interior design. What is your strategy on getting clients? Okay, that's a big topic, bigger than I have time to cover because I'm almost out of time here. You want to have multiple streams for getting clients. It can't just all be one thing, right? It can't just be your social media. It can't just be referral. And within referral, who are those referral people? You need to have a several-pronged approach for client acquisition. I think too, depending upon where you are, and one Virgo 34, you're telling me you're just starting out. The first place I would look if you're just starting out is your inner circle. That's friends, family, maybe members of the people who go to the school where your children go to school, or an organization you're part of, maybe your church or your synagogue or your mosque. I would start first in your inner circle and branch out from there. Does that make sense? But it's actually a gorgeous question. It's a big question, and I don't have time to really answer it in full detail. So hopefully that'll get you going. Okay, time for one or two last questions. Here we go. I think I got them all. Sandra Jackson is saying that she's currently designing her own home, one room at a time, and that works for Rena.ballet, right? So if you're comfortable going for it, go for it. I am not here to tell you that you should be hiring a designer. I coach design lovers across the country who I know are not hiring designers. They do want to do it on their own, and there is nothing wrong with that. Today's topic is for those people who are designers looking for clients, evaluating what's a good client, what's not a good client, as well as for people who think they might want to be a designer. And what would that look like? to become a designer, and what kind of clients do you want and don't you want, as well as for people who think they want to become a design client. And hopefully we even helped Rena.Ballet determine I shouldn't be hiring a designer. I should just go for it myself. Okay. So there's no right or wrong in this equation. The people hiring designers in the United States and as well as worldwide, this is a group that has a degree of affluence up to a tremendous degree of affluence, because hiring a designer, as I've always said, is a luxury. You know, you may need a car to drive to work, but you don't necessarily need a Mercedes to drive to work. But there are some people who only want to drive a Mercedes, right? So there it is. All right, lovely. Next week, we are talking about design trends. I'm going to be reporting on design trends for 21 and 22. So be here, 4 p.m. Eastern. I can't wait to see you. And in the meantime, have a beautiful week, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye. Hi, this is Donna. Thanks so much for watching. And if you like this video, please hit the like button and comment below so I know what you think. And don't forget to subscribe to the Interior Design Advocates channel so you don't miss any of our great content.